What's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of the SpikeNet and Friends. Today we have an Orlando, Florida native. We have a Lewis setter who's probably one of the better and favorite setters of the Lewis program ever had, and Coach of the Year this previous
Coach of the Year, AVCA.
men's volleyball team. Mike Iandolo, thanks for joining us. A quick
Love you
Thank you
guys.
for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
How you been doing, Coach? What have you been up to?
Well, I've been actually a pretty busy summer. A lot of camps and coached with an all-star team from North Texas, so I've been pretty busy. But we start school next week. Monday's first day of class, so a lot of the guys are getting here. Probably have a little over half the teams here right now. Getting moved in today. Yesterday and today was freshman move-in, so just kind of getting all that organized, and then currently hiring in the process of hiring an assistant coach and getting that wrapped up, and then we'll get the year going.
How was the USA V All-Stars Championship for you? We know we worked with the Florida region. Obviously, you had a different experience. You've been with the Florida region and you've done your thing with the PVL experience, but obviously coaching from another side, how did that go?
Yeah, it's cool for me. It's about doing something a little different, right? I don't, outside of camps that I do here and there, I don't get to work with that age, of kid anymore. And, growing up in coaching, I coached club for 8 or 9 years before I went into college stuff. So, don't know that I'll ever go back to club. So it's a nice kind of refresh, right? Like, hey, just working with a different group of kids. And, 4 years ago, I got hooked up with the North Texas region. And so I've done 3 of the last 4 summers with them. And they just kind of like, we put a team together and we show up and we have one practice and we kind of get after it. And it's fun, right? And it's just a really cool experience. And I think it's good for them because they get to play best of 5. And, for us as college coaches, it's cool to watch them kind of figure that out, right? We had a couple of our recruits over the next couple of years where they're playing, and it's fun to see them figure out what best of 5 looks like, in all reality. And, the demands that come with potentially playing multiple 5-set matches in a row, and so it's just fun. For me, it's fun, and I enjoy what I'm doing. And North Texas has been a great region to work with, so I've been pretty pumped about that.
Obviously, you have a lot of kids, especially over the summer, look into, should I do camp? Should I be doing something like the USAV if they were to be selected? Do you see any pros and cons to a kid being like, well, I want to play HB rather than visiting a camp, for example?
I think yes and no. I mean, it depends on what they're doing, because that tournament, when it is in July, is very demanding. They've already gone through the whole club season. Maybe they've already, done a couple camps, and then they're going straight into this. And it's probably the most physically demanding of all of the tournaments and all the things that they're doing. But I do think it's pretty rewarding. It used to be way bigger when USA was involved and they had, the national teams, international teams of different age groups. But I still think it's worthwhile. And like, the kids get a lot out of it because they're playing with kids from different club teams in the region. So kids they're normally competing against in high school and in club are now on their team. And, it's kind of a simulation of what college is going to be like. So I do think it's valuable. You're put into teams with guys from maybe not where you're from, or you've never played before. And then again, you're playing best of 5, and, it's just kind of a new experience. So I do think it's valuable. Now, on the other hand, I do think camps are pretty important. And, especially if you're coming from an area where maybe you don't get a lot of development in club, or you don't get a lot of practice time for whatever reason, maybe limited opportunities, or you're traveling far to get to the team that you're playing with, those camps can be really beneficial, right? Because you're going and you're learning, and maybe bringing some stuff back to where you kind of grew up, and the club that you're playing for, and helping them out. Or you're doing it to get recruited, which I understand as well. I'm like, hey, I want to go put myself, make sure the coach sees me. And so I do think it's valuable, especially if the head coach is the one running the camp. You get in front of them and they see what's going on. You get to see campus, which is hard to do because we can only visit have so many guys come on visits. It's like we can just do it over and over and over and over again. Like, we have other things going on. So,
Right.
Being able to see campuses is kind of cool. So, like, there's value in both for sure. I for one hope it doesn't go away. Like, I want it to continue, and I would love to see USA get back involved and maybe have some more teams and make it a little bit even better competition if we can.
Right. I remember when I played, it was like that. Like I would used to travel to what we call the national team of Puerto Rico, and even though it was in the younger side of things, and
They even have a Canada team, Brazil teams. So
yeah,
they call it international. So it was pretty cool.
for girls, like it used to be kind of a spectacle, and I feel like there was a bigger presence when it came to like college coaches as well. Just watching the kids, which would be good to kind of see again, because like you said, it's kind of like the most similar you can get to the experience of a college level play. With that being said, you've obviously coached both levels. Do you take a different approach when you're coaching these kids in All Stars, or do you bring the same kind of intent? I know it's a shorter span. Obviously, you don't have a full season with these kids, but is it a different like mythology behind it?
I think it depends on the region, but for me, like I'm not with these kids before we get there. So is kind of show up a day early, get a practice in, get to know all them and their names and where they're from, all that kind of stuff. Like learn really fast, and then we start playing. And so I can't be as I'm not trying to be as hard on them as I am my college guys. Right? It's more about helping them learn and get a good experience. And if we're winning games, great. There's some other regions that they make their teams way earlier in the summer, and they practice for maybe a week or so leading up to it, and they know their players because it's these guys have been doing it for a while, right? And so they're a little bit more intense and focused on the winning. And the teams that I'm with, like we want to win for sure, but North Texas is a small region and there's not a lot of kids that play, and sometimes can be a little limited. Like we didn't have any, like we had some guys that had played middle before but didn't have any true middles there, so we had a couple bigger pins that we were just like rotating through the middle and just trying to figure out how to make it work. And but I thought we passed really well. We were competitive. OVR, the team that in our pool that was the number one seed in the pool, had been undefeated. We took to 4, and honestly, were lost the third set in deuce points, and had an opportunity to win that third set to go up 2-1, and then we pushed them in the fourth set as well. So it's like, man, that was the best team in our pool that went to gold and competed really hard. So like these kids aren't far away, which is fun to see. So it's nice to be a part of just kind of giving back a little bit and helping out some kids that maybe come from an area where they don't get a ton of that kind of exposure and things like that, which, when I was growing up in Florida, it's the same thing. Like way back then, we had 2 clubs. Like there was a club in Orlando and there's a club in South Florida that doesn't even exist anymore. And like no shade on any of my coaches. They were great. I loved them all. But like I would go do USA stuff and come back. And it's like, okay, what are you guys doing? What were you doing there? Like, let's do it here kind of thing. Let's bring as much as we can. And that was just the reality of growing up in Florida at that point playing volleyball. Like there just wasn't a ton of it. So any way I can help, give back, I try to. Like it's fun for me to interact with guys, with teenagers and high school age kids and help them learn and experience some things that like, hey, maybe they've never been told because they just haven't been around it that much. And, maybe they can hear it from me for the first time or just be like a different way of thinking about something. And they're like, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. That's really cool. And even if they take one thing, from the weekend, then I feel like I did my job. And, as long as we're being competitive, then I'm happy.
I think something you said, it kind of sparked something. I've been seeing a debate going on Facebook. It's more on the Puerto Rican side of things, so maybe it's not a big of a problem here, but it was being said about like kids not wanting to play middles and parents being like, well, if my kid's playing middle, I'm taking them to another team. And obviously you saying that you didn't have a true middle. What is something you can tell? Because obviously I started as a middle. And obviously I started as a middle because I didn't have the skills. I was a kind of a big kid, slow, not a lot of coordination. But then I made a move to being a setter. It wasn't like my dad wasn't like, you're not playing because you're a middle. What can you give insight into that as a coach?
I think there's 2 positions that are really lacking in the development world of club volleyball and high school volleyball. I think that's setter and I think that's middle. So the two that you played. So there's more kids playing now than ever, which is great. But I think those 2 require a little bit more specialization or like, hey, middles, you have to come out. And so kids don't want to do that. And it's tough. But I can tell you the importance of that position. Like we're not winning if our middles are not good like that. Just let me make that very clear. We went to the Final Four and we're one of the best offenses, and that offense is dictated by our middles. And maybe they don't have the highest number of attempts, but they're the ones setting the tempo. They're the ones setting the tone for the middle of the court. They're the ones that are running off of. So that they're not doing their job, nobody's respecting them. The BIC, which is a big part of what we do, is not they're going to be camping on that, and they're going to start getting stops there, which then limits our offense big time, right? So we have to have middles that can score offensively and be efficient, and then be able to block. It's like this. Our game is fast, and it keeps getting faster, and we need athletes that can play middle and do it at a high level. And I think it's also why you see there's probably some more foreign middles coming over here, because there's just less kids playing at a high level, but coming out of the high school club ranks. But it's a very, very important position. So hopefully that doesn't continue. Hopefully it's just like, hey guys, this is another opportunity to play. You want to play? Cool. There's an open spot right here. Go play. Go figure it out. And if you get really good at it, guess what? You're going to get an opportunity to play in college. So, and if you continue to be really good at it, guess what? You're going to get an opportunity to play as a professional and get paid money to go do that thing. So it doesn't matter at that point what position you are, right?
Right. And I think it's valuable for people to hear, like, if the idea is you want to play, I think you got to start by whatever playing time you're going to get. If that means you're going to be a libero, you're a serving sub, whatever you can do to get better. I think I agree with you in the sense of, like, just go ahead and play. You know what I mean?
There's a space, there's a spot, so you can be there. I was talking about a little bit the North Texas. I saw your kids. I know you coach the boys side, but the 14 that you have there, the North Texas team, it was a big team. So it was like 6 middles playing, but everybody was playing and watching and learning, and this is the experience on the All-Stars we want to share with the people. Like you get a spot, you get an opportunity to be looked to other talents, and then you can grow up on the sport. So that's a good thing that we can say even in the boys side. So
Right.
it's a good program, North Texas. We see him before that won everything, but this is I saw the kids and everybody's growing in that part.
Yeah. You talked a little
For
bit
sure.
about culture, and I think something I wanted to touch on. Obviously, the summer before you became head coach, you still have like the interim in your title, and then you become head coach. You've been assistant coach for 4 years, I believe. You were assistant coach for Ball State. Was there any culture change when you took over the program, or did you just kind of ride the wave of what was already established?
Well, there was, I wouldn't say culture change. There's a couple of things that we needed to clean up. Some things that didn't go great in that last season with the previous staff, and not anything like negative. It was stuff that we had already started talking about, that Don and I had, like, hey, there's some things that we identified, and we gotta kind of fix this and this and this. And so we knew what it was. And I think this just kind of gave me a head start, is that, like, I wasn't coming into this job completely new to whatever issues there might have been. Is like, hey, I've been here for 4 years. If there's any issues, I was a part of this as a coach. So, like, hey, we every year we kind of talk, and what do we need to get better at? What do we need to fix? And it was the same that year. And it just so happened that Doran left for another opportunity, and I got promoted. And so, like, hey, now that falls on me, and I got to make sure it gets done. Okay, let's make sure it gets done. And I think I won't say change, but there was some just refocus on, like, hey, let's be good teammates, and like, focus on group, we over me kind of thing, and being kind of all in for each other. And it becomes even more important when you go down to 18 guys, that everyone's kind of on the same page and moving in the same direction. If you got 25 guys or 27 guys, well, a couple of them could be knuckleheads or kind of not doing what they're supposed to be doing, off the court, or even like in practice, kind of slacking off. And you have enough bodies to kind of weather that, and enough personalities to kind of, like, okay, they're not making that big of an impact.
And if you can answer this, what it was in that part when you became interim coach and then get the part as a head coach, what was the biggest challenge that you get in that season?
It's a lot of new, right? So it was like, we had 7 or 8 new players. I had to hire 2 assistant coaches. So it was a lot of new. And even for me, I'd been here, but there's a lot of stuff that Donan did as the head coach that I wasn't a part of, just because it's not my job, right? So learning all of that, right, and handling that stuff. And then on top of that, hey, I had to finish the roster without assistant coaches. I was doing that while trying to hire assistant coaches. So that was probably the biggest challenge. And then, like, they moved in, Brian and Charles moved in to their place, like right as school was starting. So we kind of were all really new all at the same time. And so it took us maybe like a month or 2 to really get things ironed out. And, like, hey, this is how we operate in practice, and this is how, we all communicate. And this is what we're asking the guys. These are the words we're going to use. Like, we had our system built. That was the first thing we did. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Offense, defense, serving, pass, all that kind of stuff. But just in terms of like how we operate on a daily basis and how we're communicating to guys and things we're saying and the way we're saying it, like that took a little bit of time. And I think the guys noticed it at first, but then they saw us come together, which I think helped them be like, okay, cool. These guys are getting on the same page. We're on the same page. Like we're all kind of in this together. And so from there, it went really well.
I had a question. I was thinking about it. No,
So when you're thinking about it, I can ask you another one. You frequently emphasize on the small things. What specific habits do you believe separate a successful teams for you?
Yeah. I think preparation is a big one. And I think gratitude, we talk about it every day. We have a moment at the beginning of practice every day where we, let whatever guys, however many guys, kind of like if they're got something they are kind of want to just put out there that they're grateful for, to put it out there. And I'm not saying that to like toot our horn, but like I think it's important. I think it's something that gets lost in the world these days, is like just kind of being thankful for what you got and for where you are and the opportunities that you have in front of you, and taking those seriously. And if you're doing that, if you're taking it seriously, you can put in the prep work that is needed to kind of get you where you want to go as a team or as an individual, right? And it's a funny thing because it's a very general statement, right? Like preparation, but at the same time, it can go all the way down into like, hey, individual skills, like, hey, how as a receiver, how am I prepping to pass this ball from the server? Or hey, as a setter, how am I going into this match? What am I thinking about? How am I watching film? Hey, I've got a test coming up at the end of the week, but I also on Friday, but I have a match on Thursday. So like I can't wait till Thursday to study because I won't have any time because I've got a match. So maybe I'm going to study on Wednesday or Tuesday, right? And like, how are you preparing yourself to handle the things that are coming up instead of doing things last minute or kind of sloppy? It makes a big difference, and you can handle the details a lot better. And if you're handling the details, then the bigger stuff is easy.
I think it's important, like people to watch high level volleyball, and obviously we've talked about it. You guys had like probably if not the best, close to the best offense the whole year when you guys made it to the Final Four last year. Do you model your offense based on somebody you've watched, or as a setter, is that something you kind of like? I know what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a little of both. I like to go fast. I always did. As I started like getting older as a setter, and got into college, and then really kind of post college, because I've watched video of Lewis matches when I played, and it was like our fast was like a go ball now. So it's like a medium tempo now, and we thought it was fast back then, right? So, but after college, like playing adult stuff, PVL, going playing professionally overseas, is like a lot of it got faster. And I really, really enjoyed that. Use more BIC, right? That same thing that happened as I got older. And so it's these things that work, right? And if you do them correctly, they work. Doesn't matter, right? And then as I've gotten more like, hey, I got to think about this more analytically. How do we set it up as a system? All that kind of stuff as a coach over the years. Where can I take from what is USA doing? Because our BIC is one of the best in the world. To like, hey, how are these setters doing this, or what are these middles doing? How is this guy running this route, kind of thing, and just kind of like picking and taking and kind of creating a system that, what I like to say is, it's fast and it has answers for everything, but I'm not going to tell the guys what the answer is. Like it's multiple choice, right? Like we have our base offensive system, like our pins know what they're doing. Our setter lets our middle know what he's doing, and then our BIC knows what he is doing based on what the middle is doing, right? Every now and then maybe there's a switch where the setter is like making the BIC guy do something else, different based on blockers or something like that. But from there, then it's just audibles, but those audibles, they have choices, right? But they're not unlimited. They can't just do whatever they want. They still fit in the system, to try to maintain as much tempo as possible as long as possible, I think is essentially the idea there. And then if we're doing that well, we have a setter who is doing a good job making decisions and putting a ball in a spot where guys can hit it, we're going to be successful because we've got good attackers, right? So, and I think that's the case for a lot of teams at this level, in the top 5, top 10, but we're definitely one of the faster ones, and I like that. And we're heavy on the BIC, which is also, that's kind of like how I played as I got older as a setter.
Right.
Yeah, and everybody was talking about that last season. The tempo, you were the faster team on the offensive. So everybody was trying to get you because different kind of model that, but it worked for you. You get the Final Four, yeah. So it was something that it was working on it, and things that maybe if you can tell us about that issue in Lewis when you were as a setter, as a leadership and communication also for you that you share with your players.
A little, it's a long time ago now. I was actually just talking about it today. I mean, I graduated 16 years ago. So like I learned a lot there. Dan helped me a lot. It's interesting that now we're coaching against each other, right? Like I played for him. I worked for him as a year as a grad assistant, and actually lived in his house for a little while I was doing that. And, you know, still talk like regularly to this day, even outside of volleyball, just about different stuff going on and, just catching up. And when I was at Charleston before Ball State, like during COVID, he actually came through. It was like a road trip with his family. And on the way back to Illinois, like they drove through West Virginia just to stop and hang out. Right. So like we have a good relationship, and I definitely learned a lot. And it was fun coming back to the MIVA because I knew it so well. As a player, it's like, hey, man, not a lot has changed. Like these schools are still these schools, and the way they do things is, still pretty much the same as when I played. And, so that was kind of fun. And it's cool every time we go back to Lewis because, like, he's got pictures of me on the wall, and like, so guys can walk around and like, oh, coach, is that you? I'm like, yeah, that's me. That was a long time ago, but that was pretty right. So, and I'm proud of playing at Lewis. I will say that. Like, we didn't win anything when I was there, right? We never won the MIVA. We didn't go to the Final Four. But, when I got there, like my recruiting class was Dan's first recruiting class. I went to Long Beach first. I transferred in. And like, but our age went from like, hey, Lewis had all these issues and new coach, whole new roster, completely unranked, was taking a bunch of losses to like, by the time we all graduated, hey, we're ranked in the top 10. And then the group after us won the MIVA, and the group after them went to the Final Four, and the group after them went to a national championship, right? So like, I'm proud to have set that kind of stage and be a part of the group that kind of raised the level there. And so I definitely draw on that a lot, like there's a lot of things that we did that are hard to do and kind of set the stage. And, like, again, it took everybody there. Like we're, hey, it's just Lewis. It's just this little D2 school. Like nobody, you guys can't do anything. And, we were competitive with that. We beat UCLA when I was a player there. Right. So it's like, we did some cool things. And I think, you draw on those experiences as a coach for sure. But I can also say I'm lucky enough that I've been coaching long enough now that I can pull on a lot of coaching. I don't have to just rely on flow and stuff. I can draw on enough coaching things too. But yeah, it was a good experience for sure.
Obviously, you touched on it, and it's actually funny because it does feel like that. Even when I played, like programs still play in a similar fashion to when, like, I don't know, like I graduated 2018, but you can still say like UC Irvine's going to play big ball, like they're going to be big boys, or all that kind of stuff. Like now that you've seen and done what you've done at Ball State, and obviously at Charleston, starting like a new program, do you think it's time to like, and I don't want to say it's time for this, but there's a lot of talk about the West Coast, the UCLAs, the UC Irvines. Do you think it's that time where like it's shifted to where it's a lot more competitive in that sense?
For sure. And everyone's got access to the same things that training and film and things like that. Like, dude, back when I played, like in order to watch film, you're popping in a DVD and you're hitting fast forward and rewind, right? And like nowadays, it's so easy to watch film, and you can watch anybody in the world. You can watch pro teams, you can watch international teams, and so the access to information and ways to play the game is way more abundant. And so you're seeing that spread out over like the club world. Like these kids in all different places are getting better. Like we have 4 freshmen this fall. One's from Chicago, one's from North Carolina, one's from Arizona, and one's from Spain. So it's like all over the place. Not like none of those guys are from California, not because we're not trying to recruit California kids, but
Right.
it's just like there's good kids everywhere. And so then that makes its way into the college stuff. And then you see teams that get competitive. And, something you see on the men's side that doesn't happen as much on the women's side is that coaches stick around a lot longer. There's not a lot of bouncing from place to place to place. And so you get those cultures and you get those ways of playing that develop and just kind of stick around year after year after year. Right. And then you now have better players coming up out of the world, and those better players are way more spread out. It's not just isolated to 1 or 2 spots in the country. Like there's good players everywhere. And the ones that aren't in California are more willing to go to non-California schools. And then you're getting players that are just as good and are maybe already like in the USA pipeline with all those other kids, but they're from like our kid is from North Carolina, right? His Triangle Club team is one of the best club teams in the country for the last 3 years, so it's like I think that has a big impact, and then you see that, hey, the training and the ways of play are kind of balanced, like the same everywhere, not the same systems, but it's like, hey, we know what's a good pass, what we're trying to do. We're trying to go fast or trying to be aggressive with our serve. Hey, this is how we're running high balls, and we need arms in the gym to be able to score and all that kind of stuff. And so you're seeing more balance in terms of that, of like, hey, depending on where you go before, is like, hey, you see a very different style of play here versus here. Now I think it's more even in terms of style of play, and then everyone's getting good recruits. So, and which is going to be even more so now that there's only 18 guys on the D1 roster. So those guys are going to be even more spread out, and then you're going to see even more balance in terms of talent, from team to team, and you're going to see more Midwest and East Coast teams doing really well, which is fun.
You talked a lot about preparation as well, and I know like even goal setting, it was a big deal when I was in school. Obviously, it's always like we want to win a natty, and then it was kind of like, okay, how can we? That's the goal, right? But like, how can we make it? I don't want to say realistic, but what's the other step down to that goal? Well, obviously, when I was in Mason, we freshman year we didn't win anything, and sophomore we won the IVA. Was the Final Four something you guys threw out there constantly before the season started?
It wasn't so much the Final Four, but we did have 3 main goals, and that was to win the MIVA regular season, and then to win the MIVA tournament, and then to get to a national championship and win a national championship. So obviously, we got 2 of those. We didn't get the third one, which is still obviously it's always going to be the end goal. If it's not, then it's not the program that I want it to be. You know what I mean? But you have to do those other things first. I don't want to rely on being in that large bid. Now, it's great that there's more opportunities for that, but the easiest way to take care of it, or the simplest way, not the easiest, the simplest way to take care of it is to win your conference and then win your conference tournament, and then you're guaranteed a spot. And so, from there, then you just got to be the best team on that day. That's all it takes, is just to be the best team on that day, and you're going to go home with a win. And if you do that enough times in a row, you're going to go home as the last team standing, right? So those were our big 3 goals. And then it's like, hey, if you do all those things, then the individual awards come, and then all this other, the stats come and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it was, hey, win the regular season first, like win the MIVA first, and then we could talk about the MIVA tournament and win that, and then we can talk about the NCAA tournament. Let's not be so focused on the end that we lose sight of the MIVA, because if you do that, you're going to lose 100%. That our conference eats, we eat each other up. So you can't take a day off and take your foot off the gas at all. So it's important that's hey, that first step is to win this regular season. So we put ourselves in a good position for the postseason.
And those 2 championships, what does it mean to the group?
Oh, I think it's huge. I mean, it's everything, right? Like, I can tell you that I didn't win it as a player, right? So even for me, when I came back in 2022, and we were here, my first year with Donan, and we was same thing. We won the regular season, then won the MIVA tournament, and went to the Final Four. Like, I don't know that I've had a more emotional moment for myself, right, than winning that first MIVA tournament. Like, dude, I've never done that. Like, I tried so hard as a player to do that. Our teams tried so hard, and we never did it, right? And I came close when I was Dan's GA at Lewis. We made it to the MIVA tournament finals against Loyola, and ended up losing, in a tough match. So it's like I'd come so close. And so to do it as a coach was really cool. And the MIVA still means a lot. Like, this conference is tough, and these teams know it's always hard. Every gym is different, so it's like, man, there's no easy matches at anything. So like, to get through this and win it, and then win the MIVA tournament, is a big deal. And then from there, it's okay. You did that part. Now let's go to the Final Four, or go to the NCAA tournament. Like, maybe we have to play a regional round game or whatever it is, and make a run at this. But it's still a big deal. And we've got, a lot of MIVA banners in Wortham down here that, like, they're hanging there with pride, and it's cool to look up and see, like, hey, MIVA champ, MIVA champ, MIVA. Like, that's all the way back, even, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when our program was, one of the top 4 in the country year after year. So, I think it's a lot of pride there for sure.
Talking about awards, you got the Coach of the Year award.
So we can say the hard work paid off. So
Yeah,
2 titles,
definitely
and
paid
then
off. What were your first thoughts once you got that award? I know, like, it's easy to say, like, well, like, I don't work for that award, but like, what was going through your mind as you were like, oh, I'm the Coach of the Year?
Yeah, this doesn't feel like real. You know, there's a lot of really good coaches that never got that award. And then there's a lot of really good coaches that have. And, you know, to say that I'm a part of that group is kind of something I never really thought about. You know, it wasn't a goal of mine. I'm not trying to be a coach of the year. I'm just trying to be the best coach that I can for these guys and to win. We want to win. That is our goal. And then to develop these guys, right? And like make sure they're set for whatever comes next, you know, whether that's playing pro or coaching or going to a master's program or just going and getting a regular job, or maybe they're getting married and they're starting a family early, you know, like that, whatever it is, that they're ready for that, right? That's our job as coaches. And I think it's something that's lost, you know, a little bit in the new world of college athletics, is like, hey, this isn't just a business. I know it seems like it, but like it's still our job as coaches to develop these teenagers into young men that are ready to go be adults and you know, be productive and have good lives. And you know, so for me, that's what I really care about. And you know, like I like the attention on the group, and I like knowing that I was successful. I don't love, you know, the spotlight being on me. It makes me a little uncomfortable, but all that means is the same thing I told Pat when he was MIVA Player of the Year and up for National Player of the Year. Is like, hey man, if you're doing this, it means we've done a good job as a group and have achieved the things that we set out and put on paper that we're going to go do. And the only way we're doing that is as players, if everyone around them is bought in and they trust their coaches, and as coaches, if we're all bought in and we trust our players to do the things that we're asking them to do and give them the opportunities to be successful. And so we're kind of all working together, right? And I'm not a perfect coach. I say that all the time. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. I made a mistake in the Pepperdine match, and writing the lineup, and I messed up in the third set, but we ended up winning that set because my guys said, screw it, we're going to play anyways. Right. You know, so like, I'm not getting that award without those guys doing that. And, you know, I like to think that as coaches, we did a good job putting them in positions to be successful and in training and talking about the right things. And, you know, but to me, that's just part of it. Like that should be that, like those are byproducts of winning and competing at a high level, and that's where we should be. And if we're doing things correctly, then that stuff is going to come, and it's awesome and it's great. And you know, obviously, it helps me out and it looks good, and it helps recruits. All those things. Obviously, like I'm not an idiot, but you know, it's pretty cool. It might hit me a little bit more like in December when I have to go to the AVCA convention and get the award and all that kind of stuff. Like maybe it'll be a little bit more real, but you know, like to me, the biggest thing was we have a semi-finalist trophy over there instead of a finalist or a championship trophy, right? So like, it's really cool, and maybe at the end of my career, I can kind of look back and like these were cool moments, but you know, man, I don't get there without these guys. I don't get there without the staff that I had. You know, the support that we have here at Ball State, both from administration and from our alumni and things like that, and making sure that we have a place that people want to come play and it's fun to play at, and it provides an opportunity for these guys to develop and get better and compete at a high level. And, you know, I just asked that the guys trust me, and then they did, and we got to a good spot. And now the goal is, can we do it again? So.
Yeah, I really like the fact that like we don't want to lose sight of creating good humans, you know? Like I think I don't know if you want to dive into this topic at all, but do you think NIL could end up making these type of things a little more difficult? Because like even when I went to school, like obviously I played pro and I wanted to play. But once I graduated, I just look back and I still have professors that I text with about my professional life. You know what I mean? So like that meant a lot to me. But obviously now as you're hearing these kids like, whoa, I want to go to the school because they're offering this. I want to go to the school because they're offering this. It's not so much and I don't want to sound like a purist, but the what am I going to get out of it as a student, as a professional? Because not everybody gets to play pro. So like, do you think that's something that's going to get a little more difficult down the road?
You know, I'm not sure. I think, look, I want these kids to take full advantage. You know, like if when you were playing, you had an opportunity to get money, or back even when I was playing, like yeah, great, like that's awesome. I think the thing that's important is that those of us that are in leadership positions continue to lead in an appropriate way, right? We are the ones that set the tone. So if as a coach, I start making it all business and not relationship driven, then that's what it's going to become. Right. Now I can tell you, I don't want to do that. I don't want any part of that. And I want to keep it about the kids. And, you're going to have the guys that transfer every year, and because it's easier to do that, and maybe they can go somewhere where they have a better opportunity, or maybe they can go get some more money. Maybe at some point the men's game gets to that, like kind of like where the women's game is at. But I think at the end of the day, just like in any field, right, the people in positions of leadership and influence and power, let's say quote unquote power, like have to be making good decisions and doing it for the right reasons, and setting the tone properly, right? Because otherwise the people that they're leading and teaching and all that kind of stuff are going to learn. They're going to learn whatever is being presented to them, right? So, and it's the same kind of thing. Like, I'm a parent, right? I've got 2 boys, that 4 and 8, and like I take it very seriously. Like, hey, it's my responsibility to make sure that they're good dudes, that they don't screw around and cause problems for people. Like, I got to raise good humans here. But if I don't care about that, then it doesn't, like, they could be whatever, and that's the thing that happens. And if as a coach I don't care about development of players or building relationships or things like that, and it's purely about money, well, then that's what the players are going to care about. So I'm not saying that everyone is going to be that. Again, you're going to get the guys that don't agree or want better opportunities or more money, but ideally that's few and far between, and you're making an impact on these kids, right, that is going to last a long time, which I feel good about. Because like I got kids that we coached 5 years ago that are still text me all the time, or one of them just signed a pro contract in France. He played in a couple other countries, and now he's got his shot in France, and he's all pumped up, and he's like, "Coach, I'm going to send you a jersey as soon as like just stuff like that, right? Like that's the stuff that I want. And because that means you made an impact. And, it's kind of a deep thought here, but, I've had some conversations with some people, and it's like, I want to make an impact on my family, on my kids. Like, I just want their, like, we don't live forever, right? So if the thing that you do in this world that's the best is make an impact on other people and make their lives better and help them along the way, then, I think you've done a good job. And, luckily as a coach, I get to do that. And, it's at the core, of why I got into coaching. Is like, man, I really like teaching and giving back and helping these kids out. And, I feel the same way as a father. Like, I want like a little bit of my legacy to be the impact that I made, not so much like, I won a bunch of games and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, that's great. And I would love to be remembered, in the world of volleyball. But more importantly, if I've got people that I've kind of touched all over because I've coached them for so long, and, had so many guys come through my program that, like, hey, maybe there's 100 guys that are successful because I was able to make an influence on their life, then, hey, that's awesome. That's what I want.
And that's the story is gonna repeat them when they grow up. What my coach teach me, what everything I learned when I was under his umbrella. So, giving that advice, what advice you can give to the young setters and aspiring volleyball coaches?
Well, to coaches, it's learn. Like, don't put yourself in a box of like, I can only teach this one thing, or I'm only a setters coach, or I'm only a middles coach, or I'm only an offense coach or defense. No, learn everything. Don't be afraid of that. Like, learn it all, be able to teach it all. And don't be afraid of difficult choices. Yeah, as part of being a coach. And you can care about people that you coach and maybe make a decision that they're not going to be happy with. You can do both. Like, it's hard. Especially if you have a relationship with them and there's trust and there's, you care about them, but maybe the decision that you're making is not one that they're going to be happy with. Like, that's a hard thing to do. And sometimes you got to prepare yourself for those conversations and not avoid confrontation. But really it's like learning, like, to be comfortable coaching everything. And the only way you can do that is by coaching. So, like, as many things run camps, go work clinics, go work college camps, go coach different levels of club, coach boys, coach girls. I've done both, right? Like, learn how to communicate with athletes, learn how to, teach different skills, how to run this, how to run that. Like, oh, how does USA do this? Okay, that's cool. How does Long Beach do this? Okay, that's cool. How does Nebraska on the women's side do this? Okay, that's cool. Like, be comfortable with it all. Don't put yourself into a box, which I think a lot of young coaches do, because they just like get on this narrow path and then they see like, oh, this is my way to success. But then they get there and then they're not prepared to lead, a full group because they're not as experienced as they should be in all the other things, right? So that would be the biggest one. And you said for setters too?
Yes. That's your previous experience. And
technique is the most important thing about setting. I cannot stress to you, like, your feet need to be good, your body needs to be in the right spot, your hands better be good, your release needs to be consistent. You can do those things, then we can talk about running an offense. I think, which is part of naturally, like, more kids getting involved and watching it at a high level as they try to mimic high level when they're young and maybe haven't developed the required skills, and then they kind of build bad habits, or maybe even have coaches who don't know how to teach like the basics, and they only know this because that's also what they've only seen, right? Maybe they're not as experienced, or maybe they don't know setting as a coach, and so they're just kind of like, let them do their thing. And so I think, like, technique. you know I still believe that setting is an art. I will always think that. I hate that the rules have changed over the years to make it more about just chucking a ball around than
I was just gonna follow up with that
Yeah.
question because we've heard the counterpart of like, well, we just want people to watch volleyball. We don't want to be stopping the game, which I get. But to your point, there's people in the professional level that are prepared for that. You know what I mean? I think still in the younger ages, and maybe you agree or you disagree, we still gotta. I agree. We don't have to stop every single time the ball spins, but like there has to be a certain type of accountability just in a development perspective. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I can't teach you how to do it right if I'm just letting you do whatever. That's
Yep.
how I feel. Like I don't
For
know.
sure.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Like, I was, man, I think I was talking with Brian about this over the summer, and it was just like, man, we used to have competitions when I was in college. Like, hey, we're gonna throw the ball up with this craziest amount of spin that we can, and so you can set it the cleanest, right? And like, you're talking trash if the ball's not coming out clean. Like, that was an art form. Like, that was like, you're supposed to be able to read the words on the ball because it's not spinning as it comes out of your hands, right?
I think that was a drill for 2 days or 2 hours doing that only.
time as well.
Like,
College,
and I get it too, part of it, right? Like, club is a business, and they can't just, like, dude, my first practice ever in volleyball, I was given a ball, I was taken to the wall, and I said, here, this is what you're gonna do. And I sat against the wall for like an hour, right? That was the first, first practice I ever did. And did I love it? No. But as the more I played the sport, right, the more I fell in love with the sport, the more I wanted to do that, right? Because I was like, oh, I could be good at this. And I think if you ask all the setters that I've coached, and I feel really good about this, but like, every starter that I've coached has been an all conference level setter. And I don't slack on technique. Like, it's not, you can ask Macho, right? Like, he's going into his senior year and we're in the Final Four, and I'm talking to him about technique in the mat. Like, hey, dude, you got to make sure you're getting your feet there. Make sure we're getting squared and finishing well. You're missing a little inside on the right side. We got to get that ball up a little higher. Right? Like, that's all technical stuff. It doesn't go away. You cannot go away. There's a reason, right? Like, think about the greats in any sport. Why are they the best? Because they do it the right way every single time, over and over.
That's what we call it an art, because you have to put the ball in the spot.
Yeah, it's funny because it happens in basketball as well. Like, everybody who wants to be the next Stephen Curry, and it's like, well, he's shot that shot a million times before he even got to that point. So you can't just skip steps and be like, I'm just gonna chuck it from here. So it's that kind of thing. Like, you see Maruf, the Checo set, and you see it looks cool. They do crazy stuff, but it's something that they've drilled in the past millions of times.
Sure. And I think the other thing to realize too is, like, with those guys, like Checo, right, or even Micah too, if you watch them sometimes, their hands are so good that they don't have to be great with their body and their feet all the time. They can get away with it, or sometimes they do it on purpose, right, to try to trick the blockers and things like that, and to kind of throw it off a little bit. But it's like, they're also elite of elite when it comes to taking their hands on the ball and putting it where they want to put it, right? And so, like, not everyone is that level with their hands. There's a reality there. And they also don't get there without all the training they did, like you said, right? Like, Micah wasn't always that. He was really good, even as a club player. Like, don't get me wrong, he was very, very good. And everyone knew, like, hey, he's going to be the next guy on the national team. There's no doubt, when he was 17 years old, right? But it's still a lot of reps. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of technical work to get to that point. And then you have the freedom, because you're comfortable and you don't have to think about your technique, that you can now start doing some other things. You can think about running an offense. You can delay set. You can spin it over your shoulder. You can slide on the ground and set it. Like, you can do all these things because now you have a foundation. You can't do that stuff if you don't have a foundation of skill. And that's for everything in volleyball and most sports, right? To be honest.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that, technique it's got to be there, and we got to train it. And they got to be comfortable in it, so they don't have to always think about it, because then they can play free. And once they're playing free, you look at a guy like Pat Rogers, right? He gets to play free because he's good at the technical stuff, right? And when he gets to match the two of playing free and good technique, you're MVP of Pan Am, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. I like this. I like this kind of shop talk, like I like to say it. We talk about opportunity. Obviously, you played PVL, you played overseas. Do you like, if you were to pick a reason why men's volleyball hasn't exploded the way the women's volleyball game has? Like, obviously, we have 2 leagues in the girls' side. We do have VNL, obviously, or VLA, I believe it is now.
BLA, yeah.
It's not that yet, obviously. Do you think what needs to happen for it to be close to what the girls are looking at right now?
Oh man, I think the one of them is happening right now, which is there's more guys playing than ever at the youth ages. It's the fastest growing sport at the high school level, which is where women's volleyball was, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, right? Now, I think the other things that needs to happen is we need to be able to have more eyes on our sport, which is hard to do, because they have money tied into it, streaming services or TV networks that they get paid based on views, and they're going to just keep putting the things that they know are going to get views. So it's hard to take risks on things. So I think it's awesome that this last Final Four was the most viewed in a long time and had the most attendance in a long time, right? So I think that's a step in the right direction. We need to get eyes on the sport, and people need to be able to watch it, right? You think about all the other sports, they can turn on the TV and they can watch. They can watch basketball, they can watch football, watch baseball, watch soccer, watch women's volleyball now, right? You could even turn on and watch lacrosse sometimes on TV, or softball, and hey, they're exposed to it at an early age. And I think we're getting there. It's getting more of that, right? And social media is helping a lot, which is why I think we were pumping a lot of creators on social media this year. As coaches, this is important because it gets eyes on our sport, and the more eyes on the sport, the more that kids see it and oh, that's cool, I want to try that, and it's that way in all the other countries, right? The most successful countries with the biggest pro leagues, it's on TV. These kids grow up watching it, and then they grow up and they get really good, really young, and then their national teams are good, right? And it's just part of life. Unfortunately, it's not that way here, but I think it could be if we start to get eyes on the sport, and it needs to be promoted. It's not promoted anywhere near the same way by people with influence in the world of volleyball, whether that's coaches or administrators or organizations that could be promoting our sport. That I don't think we do a great job there. In fact, I don't even think we do a good job there. I think we had the big uptick this year because of content creators and people like you guys that are doing podcasts or making reels and videos and cool stuff on social media, guys going around and doing interviews with players, and it's awesome. That is what is, I think, helping promote all this stuff. And the good thing is we keep doing that, then people are going to realize there's some money here, because there's enough people paying attention. We can get some money out of this, which that's the business side, and it sucks, but it is the reality. And then, once we can get in the door, I mean, you guys know volleyball is fun to watch, and men's volleyball is extremely fun to watch. I've had so many people tell me that our match against Pepperdine was the best thing they've ever watched of any sport ever. And that's what it should be. And every 4 years at the Olympics, it's what it is, right? Everyone loves watching men's volleyball, and then it disappears for 4 years, right? So the more eyes we can get, the better. So stuff like this is awesome, and it's just going to keep, and then more kids are going to play, and more states are going to sanction. It's just going to keep growing to a point where maybe colleges can't ignore it anymore, right? And D2 is going to break off in 4 or 5 years or whatever it is, and then more schools are going to add, and there's going to be more places to play. So there's even more benefit to playing. You have more opportunities to go to college, and then maybe with D2 being separated, there's some more D1 schools that are hey, maybe this is something I want to be a part of, or maybe we can market it a little bit more. There's just so many things that could happen, and I tend to be a little optimistic about it, but I'd rather be that way than not. And I think we just got to keep working at it. We have to have people in place again, right? Leadership in place that is doing things the right way and pushing it the right way and setting the tone for what we want it to be. And but I think we're taking the right steps. We're starting to take the right steps anyways.
I think something you mentioned, and I do want to piggyback on it, is not only creators outside of the sport. I think like athletes themselves, they get bad rep sometimes because people are like, "Oh, are you a TikToker or are you an athlete?" Like, but I think it's important for them to do that. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, like one of my favorite things to read when I was in high school was Players Tribune, and it was all the players writing it. It wasn't Stephen A. Smith saying the story; it was Kevin Durant writing his own story. So I think like I do want to tell those, like, obviously the dancing and the stuff can get overwhelming for some people, but like, don't get discouraged, you know, because like, at the end of the day, like you said, the more eyes we can get on these players, the more eyes we can get on the sport, the more people are going to tune into it. Because you go to Europe and volleyball it's huge. It's not like here, like volleyball in Europe. You go to any gym. I played in the smallest part of Spain, and it was packed every night.
Yep.
So I think it's like you said, like the more we can do. Obviously, we try to do our part,
Yeah.
and then we try to, you know, extend an invite to anybody who wants to work with us and stuff, and we're open to it because at the end of the day, our mission has been growing the game. Like we're not
Growing the sport.
reason.
Try to create this for the younger, and then show them as when they get to college. That's things that we like to create, so they can keep following up and keep getting that reach that now with the technology that we have, it's more easy to find sports, because we discussed this a lot. To watch a finals or a game for NCAA, it was crazy hard for in the 90s or in the 2000s. Now you got it there, you can look at it. So it's try to manage and handle that to the hands of the people so they can watch and keep growing. And boys, men's college is something that is super enjoy to watch and super cool to see, and how develop. Even when we created the brackets, it was super fun because we were discussing who's going to be in the finals, who we're going to be battling, who's going to be more assistance and things that we can do and create so be more enjoyable. That this sport that is normally is enjoyed, but if you create more, it's more cool to watch.
We did have kind of a small poll going on our page, and you obviously got to see Harkey front row, and I don't want to put you in the hot seat, but if you were coach right now, obviously it's hard to pick from talented players. You have right now on the right side, you have Haynes, you have Harkey, you have Gabby Garcia from Puerto Rico now in the USA Volleyball program. If you had to pick two of those guys, obviously you can. It's really rare when you have three right sides on a Olympic roster. So if you have to pick two of those guys, who would make your cut?
Well, you're always going to have three technically with Matty still on the team, right? Matt Anderson, he's done both. He could do both still at a very high level, right? So he's kind of like, he's on the team. He's going to be on the team, right? Unless, you know, man, something happens to him. So hopefully that does that, because he's still playing at such high. He's my age, right? Like we're the same age.
We want to watch him in the Olympics, so we're excited that he's working,
right. and he looks really good in this VNL. He looked really good, and you know, so we'll have we have him. And you know, as far as the right sides go, it's really interesting. I don't know Karch super well. I've only kind of watched, right, and like what he did with the women and what he's now doing with the men is like, hey, we've got the Olympics here, so we're automatically in. Is like there's a lot more younger guys involved, which is really interesting to see how those younger guys develop over the next couple of years. But man, Cole is only scratching the surface, is what I will say to you. That kid is not even close to what he can be, and he is already lighting people up at the VNL level. And I remember working with him when he was like maybe 15 or 16 at a USA thing. And it's like, we were just trying to get him to get a good toss for his jump serve, right? And it's like, you could tell, it's like, man, this is a big kid. And when it clicks, it's going to be really good.
And it clicks.
It clicks like almost immediately, right? When he got to Pepperdine, which is awesome. Dude, I mean, you look at him, right? Like he is a man. Like
he has a football player body.
He's built 6'10", 6'11", right? Long arms, but he's athletic and he can move, he can jump, right? And he can really bring it from the end line. He can be an effective blocker. So I don't think it's anywhere crazy to say, like, I think Cole should be in the mix. You know, there's not a lot of guys that are built like him that can do what he can do. Now we'll see what the next 2 years bring. You know, does he leave early and go play pro? Does he just finish out his career at Pepperdine? And in both of those, is he getting good enough, and is he continue to stay with USA Volleyball in the summer and keep getting better, or does it just kind of look like what it did this year, or does it get worse? Because, so who knows what happens over the next 2 years. But
Right.
man, what I would say is I think that he is, again, I think he's only scratched the surface of what he can do as a volleyball player. And with the way he takes care of his body and the way he works and the way his mind is, he's a guy that could be playing at a very high level for a very long time. And as you've seen, like, right, with Matt, who he doesn't need to be the biggest jumper because he's so big and so long. He just needs to keep his body in shape, and he can still be really effective, and his arm still works really well. And, it takes a lot of work to be like that when you're 40, but
Right.
like, I think Cole can be another guy like that, right? It's just like, man, there's so much ahead of him. And I don't think it would be crazy to see him on that roster.
I think like you said, the upside is promising, one, and two, like you look at Haynes as well, like somebody who's sharing the court with them. When I played him in Ohio State, that Haynes is a completely different Haynes to the Haynes is playing now in the
For
national team.
For sure.
Like,
Absolutely.
It's like two different versions of that player. So I think, like you said, like the upside to what could be is really exciting to like what it is now. You know what I
And
mean?
don't get it twisted. Like, he was doing some things this summer that I have never seen a guy that size try to do. And he scored a lot of points and had a great summer. And so, like, I think they're all three in the mix. Gabby's got a great arm. He's a good volleyball player, right? I think the two got him on some size, right? Both Jake and Cole are huge guys. But I just look at it in terms of, like, man, what is the potential? And I think Cole's ceiling is higher than all of them. And I mean, like, let's be honest, right? We beat them. We beat Pepperdine in the regional round. And, we slowed him down, and he hit like 230 or something like that, but he still had 22 kills.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's part of the coaching. You have to contain one side so that you can do the points and win. So,
right. Like, he's
yeah.
still, like, our slowing him down was that he didn't have 30 plus points. He still had 25 points, right? So it's like, we slowed him down enough that we were able to pull that match out and make some plays at the end. But, like, man, he can, and if he comes back to college and he just finishes his last 2 years, or, maybe even 3 with the 5 for 5, like that, he's a problem for everybody, for sure.
And definitely, I always have this experience that I was in a game one time, and the coach says, that guy is going to do 20 points. The other guy is the one that we need to control. Don't worry about it. He's going to do his thing. But
he's going to get his points.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
We talk about
it's management there.
This guy's going to score some balls. It's okay. Don't freak out. We just, like, we're good everywhere else, and just, like, keep him from scoring all of the points, and we were able to do that.
We always ask this question because my friend here has a theory that the best coaches are teachers. They're teachers first. What did you major in when you went to college before being a coach?
I was a criminal justice major with a minor in private security.
Okay, so coach of the year wasn't going into the teacher route. So
no, but I can tell you that, like, my mom was a teacher.
That's what it is.
But I do think, right, like, I agree that the best coaches are the ones that can teach, that can explain what they need to get across the most efficient and the best way for the person they're talking to understand, right? That's teaching. That is teaching. Although I would tell you right now, and I did work as a full-time sub for a couple of years when I went back to Florida after college, right? So, like, I've been in
He got the background.
But it's funny. Dona and I actually had that conversation. We were talking about, something came up about, like, the job of teaching and, like, what it is now. Like, dude, I could never do that. I can't, like, I wouldn't be able to handle that kind of job. I'd get so frustrated. And he's like, dude, you're already a teacher, right? And I kind of, like, sat there for a second, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. Like, that is what we do, right? We teach these kids, and if you're doing it again, like I mentioned earlier, to develop them, like, you're teaching more than just volleyball. Like, how to make decisions, time management, right? Like, how to handle yourself, how to communicate properly with this new generation, how to communicate properly, like, all these things that you're teaching and trying to get them. You just don't see it like that as teaching. It's your coaching. But yeah, it is teaching for sure.
Well, we're almost up near the end of this.
Yes.
What are you most excited for this upcoming year in Ball State?
We got a lot of new guys. We have 8 new players of the 18, so almost half the team is new, which is interesting. 4 freshmen and 4 transfers, and, like, I just am excited to get in the gym with them. You know, like our returners obviously had a lot of experience, and I think that plays a big part in being able to repeat success is that experience. But I'm excited to see how the new guys mold and how this team, you know, comes together and creates its own kind of thing. And then like, man, 5 years ago, we did the exact same thing. And then the year after that, we won the regular season and lost in the MIVA finals to Ohio State. And then the year after that, we won the regular season and lost to Lindenwood in the semifinals. And then the year after that, we didn't win the regular season and we were the 5 seed and we went to Lewis and lost in the quarterfinals. And then this year we went back and did it all again, right? We won the regular season, won the MIVA tournament, went back to the Final Four. I don't want to wait another 4 years. So for me, the exciting thing is like, can we get this team, you know, to do it again, right? Can we take the program and go back to the Final Four and get another shot? Because then if you do it again, that means, hey, what you're doing is good. It's not like a flash in the pan one-time thing. And can you sustain that success? And can you make, you know, take opportunities at the end of the season when you have them to be, you know, say you do win the regular season of the MIVA, like, hey, you're now hosting and you have home court advantage. Can you take advantage of that and actually finish out what you're trying to do? And so to me, I'm excited to see if we can do that again. And I think we have a very, very talented group. You know, we got a lot of new guys to get worked into our system and for us as coaches to work with. And I'm hiring a new assistant coach. So there is a lot of new again, which, you know, is not always the best thing, but, you know, like I'm excited about it. There's a lot of good dudes. And I feel really positive about our skill level and what our practice is, you know, the level of our practice gym. And so I'm just excited to see that kind of take shape over the year. And can we do it again? Like, that's the next thing. Let's get back there and do it again. And then if we are, okay, the next year, can we do it again and have sustained success at that level, which is what you see Hawaii and Long Beach and UCLA and teams like that, programs like that. That's why they're so good, is they can do it over and over again. And then that experience of winning at that level carries down through class to class to class. So, you know, you're not this team that we just took to the Final Four. Nobody was on the team in 2022 that went. So like it was all brand new for them, right? It's like, it's hard to do that when it's brand new every time.
Yeah.
So have guys with the experience of the success be able to keep achieving that success, and then the guys underneath them learn from it, and then they do it, and then, you know, you just then make it continuous. So that's what I'm excited about is can we get that ball rolling and keep it on the path that we want it on.
It's funny because it's even tougher once you've been there, I believe, because even at Mason, when we won the conference my sophomore year, then junior year was a disaster. That was terrible. Then my senior year, we were hosting EIVAs because we had the best record. And I was like, okay, so can we make it to the tournament again? And we fell short, and it's so hard, you know, like I don't think people realize, like, and we had a lot of returning talent. It's not like we had an entire like new team.
For sure.
But it's so hard just because of how the whole college scenes changes every year. Like you had Princeton who were like not necessarily great when I was my sophomore year, but then my senior year they had a squad. So
For sure.
it's interesting. So I'm excited to see that. And then my final question, I actually am going to steal this from another podcast. If you had the ability to pick our next guest and you could help to make it happen, who would you like to see in our podcast?
That's a good question. I'd love to see Nick McCray from Long Beach on here.
Okay.
Another first-year head coach this last year. I actually voted for him for Coach of the Year because they also did really well, right, in his first year as a head coach, and he had less time than I did to prep. You know, he got promoted in December right before the season started. So I would say him, and they do a lot of really good things. And you know, we've built a relationship over the last couple of years, and he's thoughtful and I appreciate some of the things he teaches and stuff like that. So I think he'd be a good guest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Long Beach have a great program, has a good legacy, so we definitely want to see him.
Yeah. Well, thanks for
Thank you.
spending the time with us. This was
For sure, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hopefully we see you around. Hopefully we get to take your picture when you get your award.
Yeah.
We'll probably be around there. So
if you're gonna be in AVCA, we can see you there and talk a little bit more.
Let's do it.
Well, thank you,
sure.
Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.